Now, the gap between rich and poor in South Africa is not only the highest in the world, it continues to increase. Whilst black economic empowerment policies have created a wealthy black elite, they haven't been able to transform the economy in the way it should have. And now the broad-based Black Economic Empowerment Commission has declared that transactions involving broad-based trusts do not constitute genuine and effective black ownership. So is the BEE policy a complete failure? Is it time to throw it out? Joining me in the studio is the chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Trade and Industry, Ms. Jean-Marie Fubs, and Empower Dex CEO Vuyo Jack joins us from our Durban studios. Good evening to both of you. Vuyo Jack, I'm going to start off with you. You should know firsthand about corruption. Your company has been involved in it. You're suffering from part suspension because of false BEE certificates. This is one of the problems that we're seeing playing out in this arena. What happened?
So when Angela Greasy made an allegation that he had bribed one of our employees, we were gutted. Because we're very particular in terms of our processes. And therefore, we instituted an investigation into those allegations on this former employee that he had bribed to make sure to what the extent of the impact is. And therefore, that investigation is ongoing. And while that was happening, we had then SANAS suspend on the basis of the Bosasa file, be able to suspend the accreditation of Empowerdex while they were also then dealing with the non-conformances that they have identified there. So the importance of making sure that BEE is genuine is critical, and that's what we pride ourselves at Empowerdex, and that is why we then took this action to make sure we get to the truth and allow the SANAS process its space to actually come to a conclusion, and then we can be able to deal with the results.
Okay. Jean-Marie, I mean, unfortunately, this is a big problem, isn't it, in this sphere? I mean, why is this happening? What does it say about the policies and the legislation around it?
Indeed, the whole issue of trusts coming in has proved a challenge. There's nothing intrinsically wrong with the trust, but when you utilize it for the wrong purpose, as has been happening with the BBBEE issues, where companies establish a trust and say, right, everyone in the trust is going to be part of this, and you're part of the company, you're going to benefit. But what we want to have implemented with BBBEE are those that get the so-called benefit in a trust must be involved in the decision-making and in the real operations too.
Yes, because that hasn't been happening as
not at all. But thirdly, there must at the end be unencumbered benefit from it. And what we have found, indeed in my own constituency, trusts are established and people say, yes, I'm been so happy. But when I tried to get a loan, I couldn't. But this fellow, as part of the management team, could. That is not equitable.
No. I mean, Vuyo Jack, that's another problem. We've got corruption, we've got political interference. How successful has it been? A lot of people say it's a disaster.
No, it's not been a complete disaster, because what you find, the tools that have been created, there are a lot of companies that are actually implementing them. Is it reaching the fullest benefit and the extent of the beneficiaries? No, because of the inherent limitation in some of the tools. For example, when you look at trusts that are really broad-based and you say we're going to be benefiting the people of KwaMashu, and therefore you have a broad-based beneficiary base, therefore you do have to have democratic processes of getting the community to then be able to represent to have their representatives in the trust. And what is critical is that for BEE to work, there has to be engagement with the beneficiaries. And it's not only affecting the ownership schemes, it's also affecting your enterprise and supply development programs, where black entrepreneurs, what they do get is training, but they're not only needing training. They need to have access to markets. They need to be able to build sustainable businesses that can be able to fuel economic growth. That's the fullest extent that we're not seeing. We're seeing the initial tools being utilized, but they're not reaching fully the intended beneficiary and achieving the intended intent behind the tools.
Okay, Jean-Marie, sorry, let me bring in Jean-Marie here. I mean, why is that not happening? And I'm going to add something to this question. I've been overseas for a long time, and whenever people spoke about the BEE policy, they drew a blank. It seemed to be an obstacle to investment. So it's not well presented. So there's another area there that it's failing, and I'm just wondering why it's not getting to the people who need it and why the image is so bad of it.
You mentioned the word investment. In fact, that's a question I'm often asked. No, this is great, but I mean, you know, look, what about the president is trying to attract investment. Now with this whole BBBEE, the investors are sort of scared off because they know they can't give all this ownership away. Well, they don't have to. There is the DTI equity equivalent investment, which substitutes part of the ownership so that your equity, which the DTI determines, has to be, if you like, the equivalent if there was ownership. So with respect to overseas investors, this certainly hasn't scared away people like the Germans, who have huge investments in this country, and in fact the Japanese, with whom we don't even have a bilateral treaty.
Okay, but all right, so you said it's not putting everybody off, but there's a lot of confusion about it. It's not working as well as it should. Is it time for change now? To admit that this hasn't worked as well as it should have. Clearly, it's not being confronted in the right way. We need another policy.
No, I don't think we need another policy. What we may need is the private sector, those involved there who are confused, to approach the Commission, and many of them have, in fact, successfully. And in fact, part of the problem that we're facing are the verification agencies who aren't helping their clients by simply saying, yeah, this is all okay, and giving it to them. Because when they are approached about compliance by the Commission, we've been told this as a committee, they're very quick to back down and say, yes, we made a mistake.
Okay, let me bring Vuyo in here. Vuyo, do you think the policy needs to be scrapped and we start off all over again, get something new, a lot more effective?
No, I don't think it needs to be scrapped. There needs to be better understanding of what BEE is about by the beneficiaries. That will bring about robust engagements with the BEE initiatives. Also, companies actually are more clearer about BEE. It's just that the counterparties to the different transactions and to the different initiatives is that they're not fully aware of what the implications of the law are. And therefore, when you can be able to raise that level of awareness and be able to make sure that they are able to come to the party in contributing to the initiatives that are put on the table, we can see much more impactful BEE.
Okay, Vuyo Jack, Jean-Marie Fabs, thank you very much.
And thank you very much.
Thank you. Still to come, the right to die. What are the rights and responsibilities of doctors when it comes to patients who want assisted suicide? But first, here is your international weather news.